I'm going to do this video in two parts, but I want to point out some really important stuff first on the proper way to clean your sensor. This is applicable obviously to DSLR or to mirrorless. A lot of people I've heard said that, well, my sensor is self-cleaning because I have a cleaning option when I turn the camera on or turn it off, and that's selectable, and that's the case for most Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fujifilm. Well, what that is not really cleaning. Well, it kind of is. It is a ultrasonic shaker that is at two corners of the sensor, and what it does is it applies a very, very light ultrasonic shake, and the only thing that will do is affect the very lightest clinging dust possible and shake it into the bottom of the mirror box, in the case of a DSLR, or in the bottom of the trough where the second curtain of your shutter sits. So it's about 99% useless. So everybody out there that thinks that their camera has a self-cleaning mode, while technically correct, it's 99% incorrect. That will never remove oil spots, and it will never remove the actual grime that actually sits and adheres to your sensor, you know, like gum stuck to the bottom of the sidewalk. It's just not going to remove it. I always turn it off on every camera. It's basically useless. You should never ever use canned air on your camera. It doesn't matter whether it's a DSLR or mirrorless. The actual Kevlar shutter blades, both first curtain and second curtain, they're very easy to warp, and it can cause premature death of your shutter mech, which, depending on the camera, is a $400 replacement. Never, ever use canned air. Use one of these hand blowers. Yeah, I know this is shaped like a grenade, but use a hand blower. Never, ever use canned air to do the initial cleaning of your camera before you progress to using the photo swabs. Obviously, you're first going to use a hand blower, and then you're going to use these sensor swabs. I recommend Photosol. There's several different manufacturers of sensor swabs. These are the best. They also have a new sort of quilted pattern. Yeah, just like Charmin, right? A new sort of quilted pattern. These are not PEC pads, by the way. A lot of people think that these are plastic paddles covered with PEC pads. They absolutely are not. Never blow on any part of the camera or lens with your breath. You got germs, so you don't want the acidic spit in your mouth to get some. There's a famous ignorant YouTuber that does that. It's absolutely deranged in the extreme. Don't even think about doing that. A lot of people think that once you actually have the mirror and the shutter up, in the case of mirrorless, all you have to do is just take the lens off, that you need some sort of clean room environment to clean your sensor. This is absolute nonsense. Nikon, Fujifilm, Canon, everybody does it the same. There's not clean room environments if you were to ridiculously send your camera off. You need to learn how to do this yourself, okay? Don't send your camera off for $100 or $60 and have the camera manufacturer clean your sensor. But you don't need clean room levels of cleanliness. I mean, obviously you don't want to do this in an industrial workplace where a bunch of dust is flying in the air, but, you know, in the quietude of your own house, that's fine. This is no different than what Nikon, Canon, or Fujifilm does. It's not my opinion, it's a fact. Every camera manufacturer does keep, right now I have the mirror down and the shutter closed, but it's okay as long as you're not dropping stuff into the camera, you know, to keep it pointed up like this when you're actually doing the sensor cleaning, so that's perfectly fine. A lot of people think that that's ridiculous to have it pointed up with the sensor exposed for a minute or two. Well, outdoors, that would be the case. Even then, you could still clean it. But no, when you're actually cleaning the sensor, having it open for a few minutes is perfectly fine. Dust is always inverse of wherever it appears on your image. So if you actually take a shot to do the test, if it appears on the top here, then it's down here. If it appears here, then it's down here. If it appears here, the actual dust or debris is down here. It's always inverse of wherever the spot will appear on the image. So if you take a shot and your dust spot or oil spot's up here, then of course it's down here. After you actually do the sensor cleaning, and recommend using Photosol swabs. You could use whatever sort of swabs you want. Photosol actually makes, I think, 3 or 4 different swab sizes now. 2 different crop sensor swabs. They even have a micro 4/3 sensor swab. This is an FX swab, and this is a DX swab here. This is the methanol solution. Eclipse. It's sold by photosol.com. You can order the kits there. You can go on eBay. There are a lot of resellers of Eclipse cleaning solution. This little jar, which I actually use to refill this, I mean, with this full, I mean, I think I could do like 400 sensors. You're only using 2 drops of liquid when you clean your sensor. So this little tiny, I think what it is a half fluid ounce. This is good for like 200 or 300 sensor cleanings. Does evaporate pretty quick. A lot of mistake people make. I'll talk about that in the second video. Turn it upside down when you're actually using your blower before you actually do the sensor swab cleaning. If your sensor is very, very dirty, you actually, and I recommend this because these are $5 a pop. You know, and it's no big deal. But if your sensor is really dirty, you don't use a dirty sensor swab that you use to clean a last dirty sensor. But if it was a last pass sensor swab, in other words, the sensor was 99% clean, and I use this to clean my sensor, I actually put these back in the bag for use if I ever have a really dirty sensor. Because if you have a really dirty sensor, there's no use in ruining. Because this is, if it's a last pass sensor swab, this is still 95 to 90, actually it's more than 95% clean. It's extremely clean, okay? So you just use it again on a really dirty sensor, okay? It's not going to impede anything. It's not going to cause any issues. This is a recommendation. So just put it right back in the bag after you use it, but you would never reuse one that you used to clean a really dirty sensor. When I say last pass, I'm talking about a sensor that is mostly clean. You use that on a really dirty sensor the next go-around, so you're not using another, depends on where you buy them from, like a 10-pack of Photosol swabs, or like $40, $38, I believe. So I think the cheapest you can get them for now is $35 for a 10-pack. So let's go to the second video, and remember to keep your hands off the on-off switch, because it doesn't matter if it's, well, in case of a mirrorless, it's not going to make any difference, but if you accidentally have your hands here and you turn the camera off while you actually have the sensor swab cleaning your sensor, then the shutter curtains are going to drop, and they're very, very fragile, and they're going to drop on the sensor swab stick, and then you're going to have a $400 repair job, because you dropped the curtains and bent them on the stick of the sensor swab. So if you want to put a piece of tape or duct tape once you got the camera on so you don't accidentally turn it off, just keep your hands away from the damn on-off switch on a DSLR camera, obviously. So let's go to the second video and actually do a real sensor cleaning and show you how to do it. But these are important things. Remember, importantly, in the premise of this video, don't use canned air. Never use that. Use a hand blower, okay, to clear the dust out. The notion that your sensor is self-cleaning is 99% BS. It is an ultrasonic shaker that is attached to the cover glass that sits over top of the sensor, not the sensor itself. Since you're never ever actually touching the sensor, you're touching the cover glass. So you don't have to worry about damaging your sensor. Well, you know, I don't know, I'm sticking liquid stuff inside my sensor. Listen, you're only using 2 drops on the sensor swab, okay? It's not going to migrate into your camera and cause damage, and it evaporates really quick. Once you apply the 2 drops, you need to immediately do the cleaning within 5 seconds, because if you don't, you're going to leave streaks. Why would you leave streaks? Because as this stuff starts to dry, after you apply 2 drops, you don't wait more than 5 seconds before you do the sensor cleaning, because it will start to dry very quickly because it's methanol, and then as it's semi-dried, it will leave a streak across the cover glass over top of your sensor, and you don't want that. It's not going to be an issue. It just means you're going to have to crack open another $5 sensor swab and start all over again because you waited too damn long for doing the actual cleaning. So let's go to the second video and actually do a correct sensor cleaning, on, in this case, a Nikon D4. Okay, thanks, bye.